Welcome to this gallery, which is entitled Picturing the Wild West. My name is Judy Taylor, and I am an educator at the Stark Museum of Art. And this really is a wonderful way to discuss this particular gallery. It is full of paintings made by artists who have pictured the West in a wonderful way. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at paintings and sculptures that talk about the West. And we are going to connect that to storytelling. Continuing our storytelling, we're going to look at Mr. Remington's beautiful bronze sculpture here. Now, Mr. Remington was a wonderful sculptor. These are made of bronze, and he really decided to talk a lot about the horse. He knew a lot about the horse. So let's look at this, and you tell me what you think may be going on here. Exactly. This horse has been scared. And what scared it? This tiny rattlesnake down here. So let's talk about the story, and we need to talk about what is making up a story. What are the elements of a story? Well, we have characters, we have plot, and the plot certainly tells us what's going on. We have the setting, which tells where this is all taking place, and then we have an ending. So let's look at this with that in mind, but first I want you to really study this sculpture. I want you to look at the cowboy in particular because he is one of the characters. He has his hand on his hat, holding it, and the other hand is on the horn of the saddle. And this is to help him stay on that horse that is trying to buck him off because the horse is very scared. Now, why do you think he's holding on to his hat so carefully? Yes, you're right, because in the West, the hat was one of the most important parts of the cowboy's clothing. The hat saved him from the sun and from the rain and all the elements of the West. Okay, so the next thing we see is the kerchief. And that is around his neck and is used frequently if there is a sandstorm or if it's very cold. He can pull it up over his nose. Another use would be if it's very hot, he could dip it in the water and use it to wipe around his neck or on his face to cool himself off. Okay, as we go on down, we see the folds in the shirt, and we also see something really fuzzy on his legs. Do you know what that is? Those are called chaps, and they are used if there is a lot of heavy brush, and it keeps the stickers and things from getting in his legs. Looking on down, we see his boot that is firmly attached to the stirrup. Next, the character that we would like to look at would be the horse. Can a horse be a character? Well, of course, a horse can be a character. Anything can be a character as long as it is part of the story. So the horse is beautifully sculpted. Look at all the muscles. Look at the legs. Look how he has the horses up on his hind legs, balanced beautifully. The horse is leaning to the right. The cowboy is leaning the opposite direction, which helps the balance. And if you really look at it, you will see that this whole sculpture is in a circle. You can walk around it, but just imagine that it has been sculpted in a circle, which is one of the elements of art that we need to talk about. Okay, his tail is flung out, the mane is flung out, the ears are up because he's very, very aware of the snake. The snake is the third character in our story, and he has come upon the horse and the rider and scared the horse extremely well. This horse knows that this rattlesnake, which, by the way, that's the name of the sculpture, is the rattlesnake. The horse is very frightened and knows that the snake can bite him. So he is shying away. Now, if we wanted to talk about the story, what would we say? Can we make a story up about this? I want you to be thinking about that. Now then, the setting is going to be, we see rough areas on the base of this sculpture, which gives us the idea that it's probably sand or desert type terrain. But we also know that it's in the west because that's where the cowboy is. Okay, our final element that we would want to talk about would be the ending. So I'd like for you to be thinking about that also. I'm not sure exactly how we should start this story. What do you think? I think we might say, this cowboy was out on the range, riding his horse, and all of a sudden, up from behind a rock, perhaps, comes this rattlesnake, hissing and rattling and scaring this horse. Now, there are several things that could happen, and we might call that a prediction. We could predict that this horse might run off with the rider. The horse might throw the rider off, which would not be very good. But let's continue with our story, and let's just decide that the horse runs off with the rider and does not throw him off, leaving the rattlesnake where he was. All right, after that, we need to find an ending. Our ending could be several things. It could be a good ending. It could be a bad ending. Let's make it a good ending and say that everybody ended up in good shape. Our final topic to discuss is whether this is fiction or nonfiction. Now, I think you discussed that in the other gallery. So what did we say fiction is? It's something that is made up or imagined. It's not true. Nonfiction, however, is very, very true. It is based on fact. So what do you think about this? Do you think this is fiction or nonfiction? I'm going to leave that up to you to decide. We all can look at art and decide what we think about it. We don't necessarily have to think what the artist thought. It's our own interpretation, and nobody is ever wrong about it. Okay, the final part of our story today will be, interestingly enough, dialogue, because dialogue is a part of the story. So open up your journal or your sketchbook, as the case may be, and you will see a printout of our wonderful bronze. And we have speech bubbles and thought bubbles. The thought bubble would be over here, the little curly-cued one, and this would be the speech bubble. So also over here we have a speech bubble. If you were observing this incident take place, what would you say, perhaps? Be sure to join us in the next gallery when we talk about inferences. Thank you for coming.